All right. Welcome back to the Gold Rush Weekly Watch List. um, not too many names to discuss this week, just a handful, but based on what I'm seeing in the market, um, I mean, this past week was a relatively negative week. We lost a lot of strength this past week, and I think that there's going to be a continuation in the downside move. However, I'm not going to totally bank on it. I do see some very strong setups to the upside. I just see some interesting setups, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about interesting setups. The way that they play out, who knows? But I like to keep us prepared for any outcome. So I'll get right into it. Before I get started on the list, I just want to take a look at earnings real quick. So we have a few names reporting earnings this week. Some big names, some small names. So this week, let me see. Just gonna go through the list. We have J.P. Morgan, which is a relatively large name, extremely large name, reporting this week, which is a top watch for me. We have Tilray, we have United Healthcare, Delta, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, BlackRock. What else? Blackstone, Jefferies. So pretty much all of the banks, all the larger banks are reporting this week. Citibank, right? So whenever the banks start reporting, usually tech and all the other names that we're familiar with come right after. So thus earnings season has returned. So I think the biggest names to watch this week would be J.P. Morgan. I would say Delta's a big one. I would say United Healthcare is a very big one as well. Just looking through the list, I don't really see anything else. Maybe Citibank, but J.P. Morgan, Delta, United Healthcare, Citibank. Some of the other banks, like the smaller banks, like Wells Fargo, not necessarily a small bank, but just like doesn't have that much cachet in the overall scheme of things. Jefferies, BlackRock, and BlackRock is one of those companies that rules the world, right? So BlackRock would be an interesting one, but I just think it's like too obvious of a play. But I would just keep watching that sector. XLF, as we'll see in just a minute, XLF is poised for a large move, especially with JP Morgan reporting, first. I don't know if actually, let me see if it's first. When is JP Morgan reporting? Oh, JP Morgan reports on Friday. So JP Morgan will be the last of the major banks for this week. And then I think we got Goldman next week. So it's JP Morgan and Goldman are the big banks, right? The big ones that really move the market. So let's just let's just be ready for whatever kind of move occurs with those names. Let me just take a look at what else we have going on the economic calendar. This week we have, let's see, there's a conference for semis occurring on, let's see, no, I don't think it's semis. The ICR conference, and this is on Monday. The ICR conference is one of the biggest retail sector conferences. Okay, so retail. Big day for retail. Some of the names mentioned were Five, ON Holding, Walmart, Urban, Crocs, DRI, BYND, Lulu are some of the major names that are going to be expected to be spoken about, represented at that conference. And then the same day, Monday, you have JP Morgan Healthcare Conference. And then some of the names mentioned are J&J, Moderna, Abbott, CVS, right? So some names that we have here on my watch list this week. And then we have CES, which is a consumer electronics presentation. I don't know what the S stands for, but it's it's like the future of tech, right? For the year forward. NVIDIA, LG, Volkswagen, Panasonic, Hyundai, Samsung, Sony are all scheduled to hold media events at CES. So CES, so technology is on watch for the week pretty much, as is every week, but especially this week since they have some potential catalyst in really new, fresh technology. And then Atlanta Fed Reserve Bank president to participate in a moderated event, a conversation on the economic outlook at 12:30 tomorrow. So Raphael Bostic is speaking tomorrow, so there might be something there, some volatility event there, or maybe a little bit of indecision into that 12:30 before he says something. Looking through Tuesday, we have something with Walmart giving keynote at CES, and then that's at 5 p.m., which is aftermarket, and then Intel giving keynote at CES, which is again aftermarket, 8 p.m. So maybe something for a swing there potentially, although, it's just like earnings. You don't want to swing and miss, right? Wednesday, NASDAQ will release its update on short interest positions. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Maybe I would look for, if you're interested in that kind of play, then I would look for the trend in short interest now, see what's trending, see what's been released on the short interest list for the past couple of reports, and and then take an educated guess as to whether it's going to continue or not, right? I have no interest in that yet. I'm more interested in seeing the report and then playing the aftermath personally, but you might be able to get in early and bank a lot before the rest of us get in. Let's see. Also Wednesday, Qualcomm CEO sit down for CES keynote conversation. So Qualcomm at CES, and then 6:00 Best Buy at CES. So again, more CES presentations in the afternoon after market close. On Thursday and Friday we have let's see, CPI reports released 8:30 in the morning on Thursday. Economists expect a 0.2% month-over-month increase core inflation rate and 3.9 year-over-year. So anything above or below that will obviously give us a very large, a very strong move to the upside or downside. So that's something to definitely watch. So anything that we swing from Wednesday into Thursday will be affected by that. So let's be wary on Wednesday. And then Thursday is just a large day of earnings. Friday, UNH, JPM, BAC, Wells Fargo, BlackRock, Delta, and Bank of New York Mellon, BK. All on Friday. And then PPI numbers on Friday as well. So there's a lot going on at the end of the week. Pretty much all week, but the end of the week is really going to set the tone for where we are in the next couple of weeks. So if I probably will find a result for what they speak on CES, and I'll post whatever I do here. I'm in technology, in the technology industry, and so I'm pretty plugged in when it comes to conversations about new technology. And so I'll share whatever I find relevant. I mean, if you want anything, I'll just share all of it, but I'll share whatever I find relevant regarding CES. And then the retail meeting, I'll have to look for who's going to post it. I'm sure it'll be online, but if I find anything, I'll go ahead and share it with you guys. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the watch list. Not too many names again. This is going to be very quick. Looking at SPX on your screen right now, and SPX, I was waiting for it to kind of work its way down below this 20-day moving average, retest it, backtest it. I think I put that on Friday or something. Like, I expected to fully come back and backtest the 20-day moving average, which it did. I wanted to backtest and a fail right away, but it just backtested and kind of put it in still a green day. However, sellers came and brought it right back down, right? Sellers brought it right back down to where Thursday's open was. So if we release this area here, this little, between this open and this close, this open and this close here, this little, these two boxes, I think that we can break down and retest the low of this day of December 13th. Right, so that's my ultimate target for this week for SPX. If we don't get above this 20-day within the first day or two, right? I can see one more day of maybe consolidation, one more day of indecision before we make a big move down or big move back up. So maybe Monday becomes like a sideways day, but Tuesday and Wednesday, I fully expect for this to be up above this high or way down below this low, one or the other. For SPX, so I'll be watching that. I'm actually going to go ahead and set my alerts and right now ES is currently, as expected, it's currently just well within the range of these two candlesticks. There, I just have to set my alert for the high of Friday and the low of Thursday. That'll be the range to look out for. Next one is QQQ. Pretty much the same thing, right? QQQ made a new high, broke Thursday's high actually it didn't break it. It's below by 3 pennies. So It didn't break out. It didn't take out the high, and it made a new low, and then buyers brought it back up. Now, or rather, I don't know if it opened, came down, went up, and closed. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I have a short memory when it comes to this stuff. But same thing. I mean, this one's well below the 20-day moving average. Maybe technology breaks above the high and comes back to retest the 20-day moving average, which will cause SPX to open and close above the 20-day moving average. But this looks like it has a lot of magnitude to the downside. Strong move to the downside. They try to bring it back and break into Wednesday's volume on Thursday, but then brought it right back down. Sellers brought same thing on Friday. Try to break into some of Wednesday's volume, and sellers brought it right back down. So I think that QQQ is headed back in this direction down to this 391.41-ish level. This level right here where we got some previous resistance. Maybe we come back and retest it as support. So that's what I'm looking for this week. If we can't break above the high of Thursday and Friday, right? Break through that high, break through Wednesday's high, and touch that 20. So it can go either way. If it doesn't go up, it's going to go down. I think maybe on Monday we go sideways. But I'm looking for a downside move. I think it's a healthier move to the downside just so we can kind of, because it's such a strong rip, we want to make sure that we equalize and bring it back a little bit before we continue to the upside. But again, we'll see. I'm not going to set alerts on this. I'll keep my SPX alerts as my QQQ alerts. But if you want to, go ahead and set one at the high and low of day for QQQ. This is XLE. XLE is currently trading sideways along the 200-day moving average and the 50-day moving average. It did break down, actually opened up here, made a new high, fresh high for the day. Didn't break above this previous high, pretty much stayed within this range. And then sellers brought it right back down, bounced off the 50-day moving average and closed above that 200-day moving average. So I want to see it hold that 200-day. If we do get a negative day in SPY and QQQ, then you can expect for a green candle to form here and work its way up. The major names that we play for that are XOM and Oxy that I typically like to play. There's obviously a bunch of other names. So if there's anything that you see setting up in energy based on, my workflow is look at SPX, look at QQQ, look at Apple. Are they all red? If they're all red, then typically XOM or Oxy are green. Put it on the chart and kind of see if there's a setup there that looks nice. So that's what I'll be watching, especially with it being right on the 200-day moving average. This thing pretty much opened up at the 100-day on Thursday, tapped that 100-day, and then ripped down to the 200-day. Strong move on this day. And then same thing over here, kind of opened up, tried to take out some previous highs, couldn't, and sellers brought it right back down. Buyers had a little bit of hope bouncing off that 50-day moving average. So, so we'll see. It's in a good spot because there's a lot of volatility at these moving averages, as you can tell. So that's XLE. Next one is XLF. XLF with earnings, all of their earnings pretty much starting this week and then ending next week with Goldman Sachs. I think that XLF, I think there's an upside to this. The reason why I think there's upside to this is because, Fed Jay Powell said that this year they plan on reducing the rates, right? They hiked it all year last year. This year they're planning on reducing the rates. If they reduce the rates, then at that point, the market kind of opens up for banks to lend money, right? Banks are still lending money now. Let's not get it twisted. People are still paying these higher rates. Opportunities are there, so they're going to jump in at whatever rates they can get. For some of these people, the rates don't even matter. So they still got their business going. But when they lower rates, technically the banks take a little bit less, they have less money that they can scalp off the top, but they're going to have more volume, right? So it's like you're taking 150% trade versus 5% trades, right? 25% trades. You're going to take the 25% trades because you're going to net more than that 150% trade. So they're gonna get more. They're gonna make up by the lack of the money to make off top on volume, right? So I think that they're gonna fare well. This has a strong setup on it. It's just higher highs and higher lows, good consolidation. Although we do see some sell pressure here on Thursday's candlestick, lots of sell pressure. Let me zoom in on that. There was a lot of sell pressure on that candlestick on Thursday, and then Friday. Buyers brought it right back up, and then it closed right about halfway. Really, I want to see this. I want to see this close above this level here, 37.80. Obviously, over the higher day at 37.95, and then XLF is a very slow mover. You can play XLF monthlies, and you typically get some good price action. The weeklies, not so much. That's why I like to look at like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, etc., Bank of America. But you see good consolidation for the past couple of weeks can lead to a very strong move, especially good consolidation with a higher low and higher high. Very strong move incoming on XLF. And I wouldn't doubt that JP Morgan's earnings will be the catalyst for that move. The first individual name here is Amazon. Amazon, I just like it because we got an inside bar setting up on the 50-day moving average. Nice clear-cut play. Tech hasn't had the strongest week or two. And I think that this is set up very, very nicely for a good move. The lows got higher and the highs got lower. Prices tightening up. Prices forming a wedge, right? As you see prices contracting here, it leads to an expansion. So it's either going to break to the upside or break to the downside. I do like that it's on the 50-day moving average. It kind of bounced off the 50-day. You see the green volume bar, the point of control for the past 2 days are pretty much at the same spot. So if it can't break above that volume point of control, I think it's going to break to the downside. So you can just use these 143.90, 142.54 as your levels. Underneath 142.54, you got an area of support here at 139.74. Underneath that, you got the 100-day. So those are going to be my targets underneath these two levels here, these two black lines here. Lead to this white line. Actually, let me bring this up a little bit. I want to bring it there. That's where I want it. 140.46, and then underneath that, we got 138.69-ish or so for Amazon. Now, if we do hold that 50-day moving average and we rip through the high of day, right? So the first thing we got to do is hold that 50. The second thing we got to do is break through the volume point of control of Thursday and Friday. Third thing we got to do is break above the high. Fourth thing is break above the high, right? Friday's high, Thursday's high. Now, you can easily play the bounce from this red line to that green line. From that green line to high of day, that's another play. From the high of day into the previous high of day, that's another play. Above that into the gap, that's another play. Or you can hold, if you think you like it and you think it's going to go up, it's holding that 50-day. You could buy calls for a week out or 2 weeks out and maybe get a nice slow move back to the 20-day moving average. Again, you need full wide market participation. You need QQQ and you need SPX, both to put in a strong move in order for Amazon to benefit from this. Now, another thing is Amazon is like in a weird place because yes, it's a tech company. However, I think it's very dependent on retail. If a lot of these individual names such as Walmart, DKS, Five Below, et cetera, all talk about they had good numbers or good presentation or good whatever, this and that. Walmart sells all their products. Walmart's a marketplace primarily that sells all of those products. Now, I think that being an Amazon seller myself, I know that Walmart makes a lot of money off of third-party sales. I think the majority of like where their big money is obviously their advertisement, their what's this thing called? The cloud, the AWS is massive, right? Massive for them. So I wouldn't be surprised if like one of these competitors launched some sort of service that competes with AWS. But I would watch whatever occurs with CES, especially with that and then with that retail thing happening on Monday for a potential move, either up or down. Right? You're gonna see it. You might see a strong move based on someone's presentation, or you might just see a strong move and not know what it is. It's probably something occurring in the retail sector that can potentially move this up or down, right? But it's in a good spot. It bounced off the 50. It's pretty much. Let me just zoom in on this a little bit more. I think that the play for this is going to be, and let me just set my alert so you can do the same. You can set the alert at the call side at the point of control 145.50-ish, and on the put side you can set these are obviously risky entries. I'm going to go ahead and set it at the low of day, right? Just set it at the low of day. You can set it at the 50-day if you want, but it can always just break and peek its head underneath and pop back up. I'd rather set it at low of day. It can trigger down to previous low of day. So that's gonna be my My call line 144, 145.51. My put line is 144.53 for Amazon. Top watch, one of my top watches. Let's see. Next one, Nvidia. So along with whatever's going on I believe it was Thursday, whatever I said, I think it was Thursday. Let me just go back and check. Nvidia, Qualcomm, Nvidia. Oh, Monday. Okay, so they're holding media events on Monday, tomorrow, right? Nvidia does not look like the rest of the market. Nvidia put in a strong couple of green days when the market was putting in red days, right? And yes, the market had a small green candlestick on Friday, but Nvidia had a large green candlestick. So I want to see some of this momentum continue, right? Nvidia's above its 20. A lot of these other names aren't above the 20. They're underneath the 20. I want to see this momentum kind of continue. We do have a higher low, right? Here's your low. Here, this area here, and then here's your higher low, right? We haven't formed the higher high just yet. We're actually still wedging. Let me just bring this over here, right? We're actually just still wedging. However, I see that Nvidia is, I'll just get rid of it. I see that Nvidia is, the angle of attack is stronger from the downside. It's the high is much higher than, or sorry, the low is much higher than the high is lower, right? So it's like a little bit more aggressive to the upside than it is to the downside right now. That can change at any moment, but I'll go ahead and set my alert for the call side. Now I'm gonna set my alert, and then that'll allow me to watch it, right? And then I'll set another alert here just as a kind of a high of day trigger. Okay, cool, right? Above that high of day, we can target this pivot here, which is at 500. Now I know a lot of people, especially online, are not gonna play Nvidia until it breaks above 500, and that's justifiable, right? And again, maybe we do the same. Maybe we just chill and wait for it to break above 500. Now, if you want to get in before the rest of the crowd does, then maybe you buy some 500s for a couple of weeks out, right? 2-3 weeks out. And I believe the play that I saw everybody rushing into was 510 calls for next week and 515 calls for next week. Above 500, obviously, what's the high here? Let me see real quick. The high here is 505, right? So 505, what's the high over here? High over here, 502. Okay, so 505. So above 500, we got 505. I think 505 rips very, very quickly. 511, 520 are some future targets that I have from way before, from back here, still intact. So above 500, maybe you play now into the 500 and then you call it a day. Maybe you buy some 2 or 3 months out and play some 520s or 530s. But whenever Nvidia gets above 500, it's going to get the party started. That's the general consensus on online. I personally think that since it's above the 20-day moving average, it can come back to retarget this high here at 499.97, which let's just call it 500. Above that, we got 504.33. Let's just call it 505, which is pretty much this 505.50, right? So 500, 505 for this week, 100%. Now I'll probably end up playing 10, 15 points out the money, just because they're a little bit cheaper and they get really, really, really aggressive once they get closer. So I'll be probably playing the 510s or 515s for the end of the week for Nvidia. I don't really like it to the downside unless it breaks down below that 20-day moving average, right? 484.72, let's call it 484.72, 44.75. That's fine. Underneath that 44.75, then I'll be interested in it trying to target that 50-day moving average. But for now, I think I like it to the upside much more than to the downside. Next one, Boeing. Let's see. Federal Aviation Administration is ordering temporary grounding of some Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft operated by U.S. airlines or in U.S. territory. Requiring immediate inspection, some Boeing, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, and Jen, I see that you're flying Boeing this week. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. I think that I think that there's something with the United States and with Boeing, or rather with the government, the Senate, Congress, and with Boeing, that one hand washes the other pretty much, and I feel like this is part of that. This is like, oh, we got to ground it because I haven't got my check in the mail yet, type of thing, right? I think it's that. I feel like and then there was a documentary on Netflix talking about how they cut back on safety measures and all this stuff, and I think that they're doing much better now. Um, anyway, I'm not sure if it's going to affect the stock price personally. Um, the reason why I like Boeing is because it's. And I just want to see if it broke. Let's see, 250.13 and 250. Yeah, so it did break above the high, but this is still very, very tight range, right? Between. I'll go ahead and paint it here. Here. We're still pretty much within the range of that candle. Yeah, we did break above it by 6 pennies, and then came right back down. So above the high of Wednesday's candle, it can rip and reach into, let's say if it opens up here and it rips, it'll reach that 20-day moving average pretty quickly. Now below the low of Wednesday's candle, that's what I'm really interested in, right? Because then we're targeting some of these levels down here, right? And I'll go ahead and put a level at that volume point of control there. This one here. So it can get really interesting below the Wednesday's candlestick, Wednesday's low. And let's say it is affected by this news, which I doubt it will be, but if it is, then we can easily slide down back into the 50-day moving average. So especially with all of these, let's say you loaded shares here, you bring your stop up to the low each day, right? So there's a bunch of stops sitting in this level here and all these levels here that can easily get taken out on one move. For a potential pivot machine gun, it's not a sequential one where it's like, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, rip down. It's it's way over here. I'm sure. Let me just put on a weekly real quick. Yeah, I mean, on a weekly, it could be a potential pivot machine gun to the downside. Look at the 2 week. 2 week, it could be a potential pivot machine gun. 2 week would be a nasty pivot machine gun. Nasty, nasty, nasty. I don't see it happening, but again, it depends on the news, depends on the reaction. I don't think that it's going to be that serious, but I do think that if we break down below this Wednesday's low, I think we can target some of these lows here. And maybe the 50 in a couple of, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, if the news is that bad, right? Okay, the next one is, I don't have a lot either. I have like maybe 2 more. Take a quick sip of water. CVS. CVS is very close to a pivot point. This pivot here from March of 2023, from almost a year ago, where it basically just bull flagged, right? I mean, bear flag. Kind of small bear flag here, broke down, a little bit of a bear flag, continuation breakdown. So with all this sideways action, higher, low, kind of lows getting lower and then turning around and getting higher. Little broadening, continuation breakout, consolidation pop, demand zone retest. I think that this is going to continue to move up, at least into that pivot at 83. Nice $2 move to the upside. Nothing crazy. Maybe a good play for us for Monday or Tuesday. Now, I think CVS was part of the name of the list of names with presentations this week. Let me just go back and check that. Yeah, JP Morgan Healthcare Conference, mergers and acquisitions, drug data results, financial guidance, etc., etc. CVS is one of the names to watch. So, right on time, right? Above that volume point of control at 81.62, we got the high of day at 82.17. Above that, we got 83. Above that, we got 84. Above that, we got 85. So I'll be watching CVS for the most part. I'm going to go ahead and just put my alert a bit higher. Right there, 81.62. I want to see it break that volume point of control and then see it hold that volume point of control before working its way up. Next one is, how many more do I have? Four more. Okay. Next one is JP Morgan. JP Morgan, you just zoom out. Let's go to the monthly. Yeah, I mean, JP Morgan's, it's been trending up for forever, right? Been trending up forever and ever and ever and ever. So we did get some, this is obviously COVID right here, and then some sideways action until we knew that the banks were going to get bailed out again, and then they ripped. And then we had that brand new all-time high that occurred pretty much in the entire market, October, November of 2021. And then strong pullback, bear market all of 2022. And now worked our way back into pretty much everything has reached just about all-time high that had the same kind of action, right? Let's look at Apple real quick. Right, let's look at who else? Meta is different because Meta is not quite there yet. Microsoft surpassed it, right? Microsoft is kind of ahead of the pack on the monthly. So yeah, JP Morgan is one of those names that's just right back at its previous all-time high. It actually poked its head above. Let's go to the daily. It actually poked its head above that all-time high recently at 172.27 172.96. It broke above it on Thursday and on Friday, both days, but couldn't hold it, right? Now, Friday, price action went a little bit higher. Still, there's sellers there. I bet you there's still going to be sellers here for the next couple of days. However, I think that if they have anything good to say about earnings, I think this thing is going to rip to 180. Personally, I think it's going to rip very, very fast to 180. So I'll be watching JP Morgan all into the week. You can basically treat this as an earnings event. Actually, I'd be interested to see if there is a market maker, one of those numbers, the volatility implied move number, on Friday's event. On Fridays. Oh, actually, it is earnings. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? Sorry, guys. Yeah. So Monday we have the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference, which can yield an implied move. And then we definitely have something coming out of earnings, earnings run up or whatever, a breakdown or whatever the case is. I think that numbers are good. I think it's going to hit 180. So if you see me lottoing some calls for JP Morgan, mind your business. The next one is, and it has a good setup to the downside as well. That's why I find it very interesting. We got a potential pivot machine gun here that can occur at any moment, right? Strong move to the downside can go right back to that 20-day moving average where there's a bunch of support here in the past. So it's very likely. However, we need to have a very bearish catalyst to bring us right back down to this level. Do we have it at the beginning of the week? No. Do we have, we have CPI, PPI towards the end of the week and JP Morgan earnings toward the end of the week. And one of these earlier banks might catalyze a move to the downside, but I don't see it happening, but who knows? But if it does start giving you a red day, it can very easily rip to the downside back to that 20-day moving average on a pivot machine gun. So something that's interesting. Next one, Tesla. Tesla's right back in its previous range. And I don't necessarily like trading ranges like that. I like it when it gets above or below. Let's see. Excuse me. Yeah, Tesla's had some pretty ugly price action. Let me just go ahead and draw that. Let's draw that test. It broke above the channel and now it's working its way right back into the channel. Tesla is squeezing currently between the 100-day moving average, this white line here, and the 50-day moving average, this red line here. And the moving averages are all kind of intertwined amongst each other. And typically when that happens, there's usually a very, very big move that comes out of it. I don't think it's going to happen this week, but Tesla does have earnings in a couple of weeks, right? They have earnings on the 24th, which is just 2 weeks from now. What's today? Today's the 7th. So yeah, about 2 weeks from now is the week that Tesla reports. I do like it sitting at this 50-day moving average, and between this 50 and the 100-day. So it would just be interesting to see what happens with it off of this 50 bounce. Maybe it goes sideways a couple. Maybe it breaks down below the 50 and goes to the 200. Maybe it goes straight above that 100-day and goes straight to the 20, right? Maybe it rips and does a pivot machine gun and breaks above all of these highs back to the pivot high here at 265, right? Maybe it rips below the 50 and goes straight to this previous support here underneath that 205. Who knows? But I do like where it's at right now. It is back in the range. We see that can break up out of the range. Can it break down below the range, right? Either way, I think we have a nice play coming out of Tesla the next couple of weeks. This week we might get a nice breakdown or a nice bounce. So I will keep it on my chart. I have my alert set for the 50-day moving average level and the 100-day moving average level is where I have my alerts. And let's see, Terry just posted something. And it is channeling upward. Let me just go ahead and mimic that channel. That's the daily chart from the gap down. It's doing one of these. Bring it up. Yeah, it's doing one of these. So, which makes it even better. It makes it even more interesting because now we have the 50-day acting as support along with that rising line on that channel. Versus the 100-day acting as resistance along with that falling resistance channel line that I have drawn there. So squeezy. I would be interested to see what they have, what's in the news. And I feel like Tesla's been relatively quiet. If they're talking about drug use, Elon Musk drug use. All right. That's all right, whatever. Let's see how the Elon's drug use affects the stock price up or down. I bet you Tesla fanatics end up buying it and bringing it higher. Either that or they end up starting to do drugs. But I do like it. I think it's in a good spot. Yes, it's back in the channel, but it's very interesting because you can see that it can rip through the channel up. Maybe it can rip through the channel down, as it has in the past. This is just like a very strong area. Price keeps coming back to this area. Boom, came back to it. Came back underneath it, inside of it, up, came back to it, bounced, came back to it. So it's just very magnetic. Very interesting level. So we'll see what happens. Next one is Etsy. I think Etsy's the last one, or is there one more? Etsy might be the last one. Oh, there's one more. Etsy. Etsy came back up to fill this gap. Tried it, failed. And it's working its way back down underneath the 200-day, underneath the 20-day, targeting the 50-day. Very simple. Break below, and I believe it's an inside bar on Friday. So we do have the predetermined targets. I'm going to set this one here at the point of control. But realistically, the real target would be breakdown below low of day, hit that 50. This level here at 72.38 and then 71.04 will be my final target for Etsy. Right there. 72.58. What do they have going on? Etsy. I feel like Etsy it just feels like, and maybe I'm not plugged in. Maybe I'm just plugged in as a consumer, not necessarily on the back end of it, but it just feels like they're not doing enough. Like, you're collecting data. Are you running ads? Like, what's your ad revenue like? Are you partnering with anyone? I see you spending money making ads, but like, what's the ad revenue like on what you're selling, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about it, but I think that Etsy used to be, what was it trading at before? Yeah, Etsy was like hundreds of dollars. Yeah, Etsy at one point was leveling out at $200, and now it's $75. I mean, it's not in a bad spot. I just think that I just need to know what the hell, like what are you doing to make money? Like as an investor, what are you going to make me? Why should I be interested in your stock? And while there don't have people interested, or maybe I'm not educated, but educate me. Like I can take a guess as to what some of these companies are doing. I don't know what the hell Etsy's doing to make money. Yeah, you're selling ads, but like how much money are you making selling ads? Yeah, you might be partnering with people, but like who are you partnering with? Like what makes your company so interesting that makes me want to spend money with you, right? Um, and until then, I think that it's just gonna continue to go down until they like make some moves, make people interested, right? So that's Etsy. And don't get me wrong, Etsy is a great marketplace, especially for people who open up their small shops and are selling all these artists and all these very creative people. It's great, but what's Etsy as a company doing besides just like allowing a marketplace and maybe collecting some data? Like what else are you doing, right? Last one is Netflix. Netflix looks like a potential head and shoulders on a daily here. We have a shoulder here. We broke above the level where this level where it was a bunch of resistance that formed the shoulder. Obviously failed a little bit here, but then bounced. Couldn't break much higher, so here's your head. And we do have the higher low, which I find interesting, right? We do have the higher low, but that higher low can just easily be that could be our entry level. That could be our entry. Break down, that's your entry, right? Let me get rid of some of these older lines. So if we find some resistance in this shaded area, as you see we've done on Thursday and Friday, I'm not too worried about the 20-day, but if we continue finding resistance in this area, this can easily break down and target that 50 as a target. So underneath the, where are we? Underneath 472.50-ish, target that 467.28. Underneath that, we could target 460. So big strong move coming for Netflix. If it can't break above that supply zone, and not only that, but if it can't, if the rest of tech shows weakness, which it might this week, if SPX doesn't break above the 20-day moving average, if QQQ fails, then Netflix is going to be a nice one to break to the downside for this week. So that's it, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and look through. I'll do my best to keep us all updated on all of the events of this week. The retail one I'm very interested in because obviously there's some names that we trade there. DKS is one of them. Target is another one. CVS is another one. Walmart's another one that I like to keep an eye on. So I'll do my best to keep us privy to what's going on in that presentation. And then obviously we're watching CES. And if you guys see anything, any links or anything, go ahead and share it in the chat for any of those, anything that you think is relevant for us this week. But I think the volatility is going to be with CPI, PPI, and the banks for this week. And I wouldn't be surprised to see everything kind of go sideways until JP Morgan and then report on Friday. But we'll see. Let's check ES real quick. Yeah, it's just sideways. Little. Most of the volume is above Friday's area of volume. However, you guys know pre-market or weekend trading is very, very minimal for ES. So it's as if that candle doesn't even matter, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I think that it needs to break above that 20-day moving average in order to get bullish. And if it cannot break above that 20-day moving average, then there's no reason for us to buy calls this week in SPX, right? We'll fade the bounces. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much for being here with me this Sunday. We'll see you guys tomorrow in the morning. Have a good night. Peace.